Looks like it's working, Jeff.
Where would I have indication of that?
It's showing in the top left of my screen. I see you right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it shows that it's recording and live on YouTube.
No, I don't see the live on YouTube part, just so I'm aware of when the time comes. I'm not worried about that, but
Okay.
Is it that little microphone?
that's just that your audio is coming through.
Okay, so, you know, like right above mine, it's got recording, right above my name.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. All right.
And how do you access the YouTube? Like, let's say my wife wanted to chime in on this meeting. How would she, is there you just search it when you get to YouTube?
Is that better, Tim?
Oh, I can see you. Oh, perfect.
I knew
Okay.
that was bothering you. I didn't want to have you bothered.
No, that's good. The way the door frame's around you, it looks like a Victorian painting and you're the subject of it.
There we go. That's scary.
Okay, I had to mute the YouTube live. I had two screens going at once and I had a delayed about 10, 15-second delay of our conversation. So, but we are live now. I'll put up the agenda and turn it over to Seth.
The agenda hasn't come up yet, Jeff.
Oh, hang on. Sorry about that.
There you go.
There we go. All right. First off, is there any additions that you guys seen that you want to add to it?
No, I looked it over. I'm good.
Okay, Boyd, Lynn.
Good.
Okay. So the first thing we're going to look at is school disinfecting. Jeff and I kind of touched base with this a couple times. I got this from one of our vendors. It's I put a link on there that you guys can watch whenever you get a chance to. It's a new system called the Ecosystem, and it's for disinfecting using electrostatic spraying versus your standard washing and scrubbing and everything. It's a really neat, very informative thing that I encourage you guys to look at. This is something that I would kind of like to look forward, moving forward to in the near future. So,
I'll ask a real basic question. Is it involve a lot of cost to get into a system like that?
so they got two systems. One is a handheld. It's kind of like a, I don't know, kind of looks like a shop vac with a handle on it. That's the handheld one. That's about around 600 and something. And then they have a backpack one. That's the one that I'm looking at. It's about 2,400. So the difference between the two, the handheld will cover 5,000 square and the backpack will average 25,000 square. Right now our custodials are running about 30,000 square each. So that's why I'm kind of opting, if I'm going to look for one that I can just have done in one shot all the way through.
Okay.
Now, what's neat about this system versus some of the others, this system that's there, you can use any chemical that we're using now, like the QT3 or the Vindicator, stuff that we use currently for disinfecting. It also has its own tablets called Eco Tablets, and what they're people safe, they're pet safe. So you can use it in the kitchen and go over all the equipment right there without having to wipe it down. It does no harm or anything like any of the other chemicals will. That's one of the big things that I was looking at too.
And I think there might be some grants out there too available for coming up with some of the money to purchase it.
What's that, Jeff?
I said, I think there might be some grants coming up for that type of thing.
Yeah, I was looking at one already, one that came up, Crystal sent to me that I'm going to take a look at. Kind of dove into it a little bit, but not real deep, and I think it's kind of leaning towards this way.
So how does that work exactly?
It is, what it does is it takes the spray and it becomes,
Ionized?
yes, exactly. And that's what it does. It goes and anything that's grounded, like your desks, anything, it puts a negative charge on everything. So it becomes kind of magnetic. So as you spray it on, it actually grabs right to it. It's like like a dry mist almost.
So you're not just spraying a generalized area, you're actually spraying a specific desk or a locker.
Absolutely. You can hit everything right down to a sink, even just like the water fountains. You can go through, pinpoint everything, or you can go through and do the whole thing in a great big sweep.
Now, when you say like the 25,000 square feet, is that on a charge? Is it take any other additional material, usable consumables, or is it just a battery charge?
It's just a battery charge. It's battery operated. Their calculations come out what they found averaging for 25,000 square takes about 4 hours. And the battery that they have in the backpack's a little bigger battery than what's in the handheld. So they figure within 4 hours, they should be able to cover the 25,000 square.
Okay.
If you guys get a chance, I encourage you to take a look at that because it might be the, kind of the way everybody's education system's leaning towards now.
All right, and I assume, like Jeff said, that just based on what's going on, that there will be some sort of financial motivation to make that happen here in the future.
Yeah, keep our fingers crossed and we can definitely use that, take advantage of it. So, any other questions on that? Once you guys take a look at the video, if you have any questions, absolutely get a hold of me.
Okay, we will.
Okay. And move on to go ahead. All right, we'll move on to number 2, getting summer projects lined up. That's something I just started working on. We're also working right now in school. We're doing some of the projects while we have the opportunity. So we're kind of picking away at them with the limited crew, just to keep them busy, keep them working. And if we can get some of these knocked out, moved ahead, that's going to allow more opportunity to do other stuff during the summer that typically we don't have time to do. And one of the ones that I'm really hoping we get to a little bit more is start focusing on the outside of the building for presentation a little bit more. So any questions on that from you guys?
So I muted everyone. Are you able to unmute if you want to talk? It should be on the bottom left-hand corner, because then it gets less feedback.
Like, just like that, right? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. The question I had was, what are you specifically doing outside?
One of the things we're going to look at is the area that was unfinished last year in the back around the lift station. And I'll focus on that, getting it out, getting it seeded and getting it growing as quick as we can. Some of the other areas are all where the plow has dug in and taken away some of the sod in the front of the buildings and around the entrances. That's going to be the priority. That's looking really, really rough right now. And for me, Tim, from the golf course, first impressions are huge. And that's one of them that I want to get taken care of. And then the other thing that we're going to look at is the football field, the damage that was done from last year's Mud Bowl games in the center of the field, how we're going to get that back, how we're going to get it leveled out.
Okay, in terms of, I saw that you guys got all those chips spread, so those piles are done.
Yeah.
But now it's a question, I suppose, of going down there with a plow or a bobcat of some sort and just flattening the whole thing out, right?
Yep, absolutely. He went through and he just put them in the piles like that because when he dug them out, they were still frozen chunks. And I wanted to get them out on the trail as long as it was still frozen so they don't run into what they did last year. And even if we have to, just spend some time by hand and shoveling them out and raking them out. It's able to get done now that they're all there in place.
Okay, thank you. And then that goes, I think this week is focused on, at the arena, on doing the outside stuff as well. We're at least going to try to neaten up everything we can, get rid of our old pallets and, the construction kind of look to it.
Yeah, so if you need a place to put your pallets, Tim, on the south side of the bus garage, there's a stack of them there. Then we take them down in bulk.
Okay, thanks. I may take you up on that then.
Okay, definitely. Well, any other questions on summer projects?
Boyd, are you able to unmute or?
Nope, had to rely on you, I think.
Okay,
We
I
got
can
you.
just leave you unmuted. Okay,
How about concrete? Are you looking at any of that this year?
Yeah, absolutely, we are. A lot of the patches that we did we use that that fiber patch. It was a little bit different, and a lot of it, the plow as it went over, it took a lot of that stuff out. I think it's starting to get to the point where we're going to have to look at a little larger scale on how to fix it or replace it.
There should be concrete companies. The county and the city we're going to be doing work on the road by the post office. That'll involve concrete. And then also next year, the county's looking at curb and gutter and sidewalks on Main Street. So you got 2 years where there'll be large amounts of concrete around,
Yeah,
not including the bridge.
Make sure I got their contact, Boyd. Then maybe
Yep.
maybe we can run everything hand in hand.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. So any other questions on that one? All right, let's move on to number 3, and this one actually involves you, Boyd. Has there been any movement with that yet? I know I just talked to you a couple weeks ago about that.
Bids open on Wednesday.
Okay, awesome. Have you kind of got it down to a time frame that you're looking at doing that?
I think we specified before, again, it would be like an August 25th thing. It'll be before Memorial Day again. I think we picked a week before. As far as the actual time frame remains seen, it depends on the contractor.
Okay, that's fair.
But as soon as I know something, I'll let you know.
Awesome. That sounds good, Boyd. Thank you.
Did you mean before Labor Day?
Yeah, Labor Day, whatever I said. Before school starts in the fall.
All right, any questions with that one? All right, we can move on to number 4. Everybody kind of understand what fluid means?
Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit slow here on my unmuting. Did you find a way to fit that in the budget for next year, chip seal?
I believe so. Crystal and Jeff and I were working on it, and I think we got that figured in. Jeff, you be able to chime in on that one?
I can chime in, but I'm not 100% sure. Do you remember what our estimated cost was? Is it
Wasn't
like
that
The
around,
number 60,000 comes to mind, but
60?
I could be wrong on that.
I think it was 50,
Wasn't that what we talked about?
I think it was like 54.
Okay,
Yeah, we talked about that in budget, so I will email Crystal and double check that we have it budgeted for, it'd be next fiscal
and
year.
and for everyone's information, that's the engineer's estimate, and we try to be the highest bidder. So I'm hoping with oil prices and everything else, it ends up drastically less. Kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
like when we did the pavement, I think it was about half the cost of what we were thinking it was going to be.
That would be very, very good.
But Lynn, I will get a definite where it's budgeted. I don't remember if it was in capital or if it would have been, I think it was in LTFM.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, just, I just wanted to make sure that we were.
All right. So we can move on to number 4 if everybody's ready. The remaining fluid dealing with COVID-19. Has everybody got an idea what fluid means?
I'm assuming it doesn't mean anything to do with bodily fluids,
This is true.
despite the subject matter.
Yeah. One of the things that we really, really learned to do as of late, you know, when all this first started, is we had a plan of attack. And the one thing we did find is that changes every single day. Different recommendations, CDC, educational, all kinds of stuff like that. So we're just kind of, our plan is to attack and keep everybody as safe as absolutely possible, but to do what the newest recommendations are and to get them done very, very quickly.
Who are you sort of relying on? Is that a school set like MASMA, or is that something that you're getting from a higher source, so to speak, or a more, you have to use this, you have to use that, or are you still in judgment call on all that?
Some of it were in judgment call. Most of them, Jeff, I believe, goes off of CDC recommendations.
Yeah, it's a combination between MDH and the CDC and Education Minnesota. An example of this fluid thing is with the entrance into the building, we've had to increase or ask staff to wear a mask when they come into the commons area. We've limited the number of people that can be in there waiting to have their temperatures checked. I had to have Seth build a plexiglass barrier for to protect the people as we're taking their temps. So that's kind of a fluid thing that just, you know, new recommendation came out, and that's what I shared with Seth. And so it is fluid, and sometimes it's not always clear, but we try to do our best to protect people.
Yep, well said. Any other questions or concerns from you guys on that?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm being concerned. I mean, I'm always thinking liability. I'm always thinking, like Jeff is saying, keeping people safe. But you have, I assume there are things that you have no choice on, that somebody says to you, put the sheet of plexiglass up. You have to do that. You're not just using your common sense there. And that's what I was asking is, you're taking CDC, but the Minnesota Education Minnesota or isn't demanding things, you know, is you see working units in Worthington or in Sioux Falls demanding stuff, but not necessarily getting it. You're not getting any push from your staff there, you know, the janitorial staff or the bus garage staff or the teaching staff to do things that aren't being asked elsewhere.
No, I don't think so.
A lot of it, Tim, it's guidance. There's, other than the executive order from the governor, a lot of it comes across as guidance. But I think just to protect people and protect our liability for the district, we try to follow those as much as we can. Because they usually, with the barrier stuff, I mean, they gave you different options that you could go with. Going from, you know, having the parents take the temperature of the kids at home and having the staff self-report their temperature and that type of thing, all the way up to basically what we did with the barrier and stuff. And I felt more that we protected people more if we kept control of making sure to do the health screening as they came into the building and make people put on the mask as they enter and that type of thing. So it's not, you have to do it. It's kind of, they give you a guidance and different options. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but there's several different options as far as that last health screening that the MDH sent out. And I think we went with the more stricter one as far as the barrier and having people put on the mask and that type of thing.
All right, and just for what it's worth, I have on 2 very specific occasions gotten compliments on what you guys are doing at the school in terms of handling what's going on and getting stuff out. So anyway, just wanted to pass that on.
It's good to hear.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes we're just kind of doing it as we go and making it up as we go, but seems like every day it's something, it changes a little bit, or there's a different guidance that goes against the thing that you're implementing the day before, but.
All right, any questions on that one? All right, we can move on to number 5 with the gym floor refinishing. As far as we know, we're keeping that as the original date that he set would have been that following Monday when school was finished. And we're still on track for that, barring anything else happening right now. So that's just figured I'd give you an update and let you know that that is still going to happen. Well, then we can move on to number 6 if there's not any questions on 5. Okay, I know our last meeting, one of the things that came up, we were talking about the chiller. Right now, Peterson Sheet Metal is working on an estimate. I guess a few years ago, a little history that I got from Mark was Reed had talked to him and told him what kind of system we're looking to get, what's needed for the school. And he went on vacation, came back, put himself on a 14-day quarantine, which was just recently. I got a hold of him and he said he's going to start working on that last week, getting the numbers together, getting it to us, what it's going to cost, and looking at a possible timeline when we can get it done. So that's just kind of an update for one of the things we talked about last meeting. Oh, any questions on that?
I've got some notes about, are we doing something to extend the life, or are we looking at a replacement, or are you looking at costs for each of those separately?
What we're looking at is a replacement. The life's been extended about 7 years over what was supposed to have been. We've been kind of limping it along the last few years to keep it going, but it's getting to the point where one of these days it's just going to fail, and it's going to come at a really inopportune time. So we're kind of looking to see if the cost and when we could do it and what it's going to take to do it.
Okay.
If I remember right, we can levy this through the safe schools through LTFM. Is this because it's over 100,000? And it has to do with air quality. Am I remember that correct?
Yep. Any questions on that one, guys?
Is
Okay.
this system going to do everything you want it to do? I mean, if we're going to be spending the money and looking at long term, let's do it right.
That's exactly right. That's what that estimate was for. It's gonna be done the way it was originally designed for in order to work most efficiently.
Sounds good.
Okay. Number 7, before all this COVID stuff happened, we had Minnesota Energy came up and they offered their services just to go and do a walkthrough and do an energy efficiency report. And there's a few recommendations in there. I think, does this go page by page, Jeff? Okay. Yeah, so you guys will be able to see it. There was 10 suggestions they had in there. And they're, you know, I don't know if they'd be cost effective at this point right now. You know, does the cost outweigh the means? I'm not sure. All in all, what we got is this school is doing very, very well on its energy savings. They were really, really happy with how good we're doing.
Yeah, a couple of those recommendations, you know, you're putting out quite a chunk of money to save fairly minimal amounts, you know, in terms of, I think the boilers were one of them for the pool, something like that, where you're really not interested in spending $30,000 to save 700 or whatever the number was.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yeah. I went through it. One of the things we just did today is went through, one of the recommendations was take the pool heaters or the water heaters for the showers in the pool, drop it from 130 down to 120. You know, that's quite a bit of savings just doing something like that. You know, so kind of looking at it, what we could do, you know, is it worth it? Like you said, Tim, you know, if you spend that much money, are we going to get a return out of it? And that's kind of what I looked at. And some of them things, like you said, it's not worth it. Or the school is doing absolutely phenomenal on its gas usage.
Well, the other thing that concerns me on a couple of them, and I think they were looking, you know, to really let you know what you had asked for, but some of them, the return is so long in the future that you almost know that you're going to replace them sooner or later anyway with something different, or there's going to be a new system. So, you know, when you're looking at 31 years to get your money back on an investment, you're pretty much sure that the system's going to change by then.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Now, that's one of the things that I looked at. It's a, you know, for what their recommendations are, I mean, like putting in those stacks on the boilers, at some point, the boilers are going to be end of life too. Those are coming up on 30 plus years. You know, they're going to have to be upgraded at some time. Would it be worth sticking that little bit in there, that amount of money in there when you know it's going to be replaced? Exactly like you said, Tim, it's not. And that's kind of the way I look at this too. What can we do? What's worth it? What's not?
I see you're on number 1, but you've already accomplished that.
Yep.
I'm just going through it slow. Let me know if there's something you want to see or.
There's one of them right there that we're just talking about, the draft heaters.
Right. I read through it, but I assume you and Boyd would understand it better than I would, in terms of just trying to not drag 6 feet of cold air back in every time the damper shuts.
Yeah, that's kind of what's happening, getting a little bit of draft coming in. There's no way to close it off immediately. Just as it goes out, once it shuts off, it kind of back flushes.
Are we running any kind of energy recovery energy recovery ventilators, Seth, or are we not new enough on the HVAC system?
We're not new enough on the HVAC system. I shouldn't say that, Boyd. I think we do have some smaller units in line, like down around the classrooms and stuff in certain sections. But as a big project, we don't have a big one like coming right off the boiler.
Yeah, that'd be something for down the line. That wouldn't be worth doing standalone, but when it's time to replace other things.
Yep, absolutely. Bring it up to date.
Yeah, my takeaway from the report and like Tim, you were mentioning the rate of returns. Yeah, we're running very efficiently. And they had to give us something to improve.
Yeah, basically, they said that too. They said, you know, we got to find something to give you a recommendation on. One of the things that we did look at is, I want to say right around January, February, one of the pool heaters, the manifold cracked on it. And there's two heaters on that. The system was designed for two. And I did a lot of research. Just to replace that manifold was $1,900. To buy a whole new system, you're looking at about $2,700. And that comes with the 5-year warranty and the payback. Talking to Minnesota Energy on it, you're looking at probably about a $1,500 rebate on that too. So there's just some of the other things that we had talked about when they were here about upgrading that.
There was a term used, the term was redundancy, but it was in light of the two boilers that you use, I assume, for the heating of the building, and then there's same prospects at the pool. There were two heaters like you just talked about.
Yep.
But they talked about them being a redundancy, and that construction has now reached a point where you wouldn't have needed the second one.
Correct.
So do you just run one heater for the pool and one heater for the building and let the other one lay dormant? Or do you alternate them back and forth? Or do you use them both? I'm not sure if one of them's going to be broken down in 5 years, why wouldn't we just mothball the other one and save it until that point and start that up?
That's exactly what we're looking at. The ones in the pool, the system with the new heaters will run by themselves. That there's two heaters in there. So I'm looking at my options, the way I look at it is replace one with the new one, save it till the old one goes out. And that way you have a backup, because you're looking at during the winter, you don't want the pool going down. It's kind of like the pump motor. You want to have a backup on that to keep that going, because it is utilized so much during the winter, be it school or public. And then same thing with the boiler room. We're only running one at a time unless the temperature starts sustaining around 20 below for an extended period of time. Then we'll kick both in. But we're running them as a lag lead. Every month we'll take and swap them over. One will become lead, one will become lag. The one that's been running the most, we'll give a break and change it over. That way it kind of extends the life on both of them and keeps them both running very well.
All right. So on those projects, I would certainly want to put it off as much as possible. I mean, it just seems to be those are obvious ones to say, all right, let's leave that alone for a while, because we do even have a backup plan.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
And then I don't know, Jeff just changed the screen, but and that's fine. Don't bring it back. But the other one that seemed like an obvious, and I never would have thought of that, but putting different aerators in the faucets, a fairly cheap fix, and the money back looked like a pretty decent amount.
Yeah, you know, those are just those little screw-on caps that are on. You know, they do restrict flow, and that's how you get that gallons per minute. The savings in there is it restricts flow. In some places, they just take them off just because of that. The kitchen per se, they took them off to increase the flow and everything that they have, so it wash a little bit better. But like in the bathrooms and stuff, there's no reason why they can't be on.
Well, I guess if you're asking, I mean, most of the time, I think we're just going to rely on you to say, well, that seems like a pretty obvious idea. But like turning the hot water heater down, you're not asking us to say, drop it to 120. I would say similarly, if you're, I mean, I certainly would either install or replace aerators as needed if there's that much savings and that minimal a cost.
Yep.
But I didn't see, I'm trying to, there was a third one on that list, and maybe you can refresh the memory for me, but that might be a possibility. The dampers you've explained away, right? Because
Yep.
The furnace is old enough that by the time you replace it, you're going to actually want to replace everything and the dampers and all, right?
Correct. Yep.
All right. And then in terms of the 2 heating units, that was 2 other items. We're just looking at saying, all right, let's just, back and forth them until we figure out, when we need a new one.
Yep. Absolutely right. Yep.
There was one other thing in there. Was it that hot water heater?
Um,
I don't know if that was the last one, replacing a water heater or something in there.
yeah, that was one of them that was upstairs, I think. Let's see, hot water boiler. Created heat circuit.
Have a page number for me?
No, and I'm just shooting off the top of my memory, but I think that what I'm sort of poking at is we're a 30-year-old building now, right? Roughly, or 27
Yeah.
years or whatever it
Yep.
is. And so I think that it's like my house, it's just obvious things that are going to have to be replaced. And that's what that LTFM is for, right? Just
Correct.
planning that out. But if there are things that I look at the turning down of the water heater, and that reflects to me as a student population number. Our numbers are way less. So the amount of hot water that's needed to mix to have a kid wash his hands or take a shower, in a gym situation should be much less. So, those are the things that I would push on you to accommodate for.
Yep. And that's one of the things that we jumped on already.
So, no, that's good. You're still scrolling through it. I'm not paying attention, so don't feel like you have to there. And just,
Seth, is there anything they do? Did they look at windows? Is there any changes to our window
oh, yeah.
that
They
would
haven't-
impact?
They didn't go that far into detail. They just kind of looked at the equipment that we had and kind of went off those for gas usage and stuff in that aspect.
Just curious.
Yeah. No,
Well, the
that's-
other thing that Boyd chimed in on, and I'm always slow on that uptake, but if the cost of these projects based on the oil business, on some of these things, like you're talking, Boyd, I think you're talking that chip seal cost is going to drop fairly significantly based on, the petroleum glut or whatever you want to call it. Are there other projects there that we should be looking at too that, maybe it's a good window of opportunity to get some stuff done?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know where else we've talked about putting tar in or sealing stuff up or whatever, but things that would be impacted by that cost.
I can't think of anything. Everything involving pavement and oil, we've kind of taken care of, and we'll finish it off this year. Unless there's some new spot you want to do.
No, not that I could think of off the top of my head. I know it had been talked about the parking lot over by the school forest, been kind of brought up in passing, but at this point, I've kind of dismissed that right now.
Okay, and the other spot was, that we've talked about off and on is that apron out towards the ball fields.
Yep. Yep.
I don't know how big a deal that is either.
Brent and I just walked back there and stuff where we're looking at different configurations, how to do parking lots. He said one of the original plans that was there was to have them come off from south of the bus garage and then come up to the backside of the fields. And that's kind of something we're exploring a little bit again too over there. What would be the best way to go to accommodate parking through there? Because it's such a narrow area and it gets so swampy just in that little driveway going in there. Would it be worth tarring it at that point? I don't think so. Not if we're going to look at building a parking lot on the other side. That kind of what you're thinking too, Tim?
Yeah, I'm just looking at, like Boyd's suggesting there, the price is right kind of a thing right now. Obviously, we don't have enough money. And I guess that's the other big question I was going to have for Jeff, whether it's tonight or next week or whenever. But are we making money or are we losing money or are we just still right on course? And I'll be curious how the budget works out after this last, or what's going to end up being a sort of a 3-month hiatus and what's going on there.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I think in buildings and grounds, you guys have been doing that. Talked to Bertle a little bit the other day, but he said you're doing projects that really need it. It's basic stuff, but the building has finally got an opportunity to get a good cleaning, a good refurbishing, a good understanding of what 27 years of damage has done. So if there are some other things that we've got, is it money well spent to go ahead and attack that during a funky gap like this?
Yep, that's one of the things we're looking at is prioritizing what we need for projects around there. And I've been working very closely with all the custodial staff and the maintenance staff and getting their opinion. What do you think? You guys know this building more than I do. What is a priority? What are you looking at? And then the same way, this is what I see. This is what I would like to get done. How do you think we could get it done? So it's working really good.
And don't take this wrong, Seth. We're too good of friends for you to want to hit me next time you see me. But do you call a Reed McFarland and just say, you know what, Reed, we're at a weird opportunity here, but is there something, we don't know when this school thing's going to open up, but we've really got, some odd timing here to do some things. Do we need a parking lot, or does that make sense? You've seen the wet seasons, maybe he has some suggestions. I don't know if you're ever in contact with him anymore, but.
Absolutely. I was just on the phone with them this morning, looking at, different things that we could do, or annual stuff that we could get done ahead of time while we have the opportunity.
Oh, good.
Him as a resource all the time.
All right.
Yeah. Nobody knows this building better than he does. So I'm going to take and pull that from his brain as much as I can.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as your question with the budget, I don't think we're making lots of money. I mean, we're paying salaries and having all those expenses. The funding from the state is pretty much set for this year. We might be saving a little bit with not having to run the buses, but we are running meals out. We're using the vehicles, and we're not using the buses for that. So there might be some cost savings with that. But my concern is funding in the future for next year and beyond. Right now there's that 90%, 10% with state aid that carries over to the following year. In bad years, that's been 70-30. So I think the economic impact on the state and how they're pulling in tax revenue is going to impact the schools eventually. I don't think there's going to be a lot of extra money in the next few years. So I think our revenue is going to be flat. We are paying the coaches, spring coaches right now through the contracts that we have because the seasons haven't been actually canceled. But we are probably going to be losing that revenue if we have to return or credit the activity fees. So I don't think we're going to be flush. I don't think we're going to burn through our fund balance. But I think the future is kind of fairly bleak looking ahead for a while. So I think we need to be very prudent. And like I said, we'll be looking at about $200,000 of cost savings reductions for next fiscal year. But I think we're sitting okay for the current year.
No, that's one of the other things when we go into the summer and we're talking about these projects that are being done is it's an unknown state right now. So we're kind of thinking, is it worth it? Is it cost effective? How can we do it less expensive? To kind of keep an eye on the budget just in case something does happen.
All right. Well, that's sort of the overarching concern. Like I said, the finances of it all anyway. So
yeah, that's a driving factor on what we could do for projects right now and what we got in the future. So with that, any other questions? I know Jeff took it down off the screen, but one of the last items is a future date of the next meeting. Anybody have any ideas what they would like? Or feel a need, do we need to do this every couple months, every month, push it off a little bit?
Boyd, is there a reason that you have to reconnect with any of us based on that chip seal bid?
Not really. I mean, it's already in the works. So, and I'll be in touch with Jeff and Seth when it happens, and I'm sure they'll disseminate the information. And I'll be out there watching some and showing Steph what to watch for if I can't be out there when they're actually putting it down. It's a very fast process. It won't take them very long.
And Lynn, you're the budget person. I'm assuming that we initiate a new budget, what is it, 1st of July?
Yes, and we haven't seen anything on that yet. Normally, we just talk about it at finance meeting. I suppose we'll talk about that on Wednesday night, probably, Jeff.
Yep,
Does that sound right?
yep. We have to approve the budget in June. Is the deadline as far as the next fiscal year.
Well, maybe we have a better idea of what kind of financial situation we're in come June. And, we're going into summer months then. You'll have an idea of, what you're expecting to be used, the school used for. But, that maybe there are other projects, but maybe we should just schedule a June meeting is my point before we get into next year's budget.
Yeah,
Does that make sense, Jeff?
Yep.
Steph?
yeah, I think so. If something does come up, we can call an emergency meeting. Isn't like we can't get in touch with each other.
Yeah, this is convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Are you thinking early in June, Tim? Is that what you're thinking?
That's kind of what I was thinking. I'd like to believe I'm looking at June 1st as kind of a watershed date in terms of the state in general, in terms of school being done. Maybe we, have some ideas about what's going to happen this summer. Can you get summer school in? Can you reopen the pool? Whatever it is, things that around, are we going to do high school sports? That type of thing, then starting to understand what we have to do to the football field, for instance, because that's going to be a project. I assume that's going to cost a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say early June would be fine.
We just set it for June 1st at 4 o'clock. Does that work?
Yeah, that works for me.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
I may have to push you to go an hour later or so, depending on if I'm actually in a boat by the 1st of June or not, but we'll see.
Okay.
Well, your phone should be new enough to where you could just do it while you're guiding.
There you go. Have the blind guy drive in.
Well, we'll set it for the 1st, and you just want to set it for 5:30, 6 o'clock, or?
No, let's do 4. Seth is offering up some interesting possibilities, but that whole concept of doing a meeting in the boat on the way back through the gap, I got potential on that one. At least the background will be better in my phone.
Then maybe we'll see how good of a captain you are. Got crabby
Right.
pants or not.
Keep wiping the vomit off my shoulder.
Yeah.
That
You
could be
remember those.
entertaining if we do YouTube streaming of it.
What was that, Boyd?
It could be entertaining if we're doing the live YouTube streaming of it. All of a sudden you hear screams.
Yeah. We'll give her a try.
Yeah, 1st of June, 4 o'clock sounds just fine.
Okay, I'll put it on the calendar and send it out to everyone.
Perfect. So I think
Good.
that's, any other questions?
No, thank you for organizing the meeting like this. It actually seems to work okay.
Yeah, well, we've been becoming pros at this.
All right. Well, we got next Monday, so thanks, Jeff.
Yep, we'll talk to you later.
Okay,
All right.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.